Hi, guys.
Good morning, YouTubers.
We're coming to you today. I shared with you the other day that we wanted to do a video about unforgiveness, and that's because we are dealing with this issue right now with one of our children. And like everybody else, the majority of people, uh, when you're raising your kids, you don't do everything perfect because you are programmed from your childhood, whatever else went on in your life, and um, the way you were disciplined, different things like that filters down to you, and you filter down to your children. Most people try to do better, and definitely did. And I didn't even come to the Lord until my son was 2, and so then I had to start getting healed. So, yeah, we made some mistakes, but the reason that we're coming to you is because unforgiveness is, uh, it's like a ball and chain around you. It's like a pile of luggage that you just keep carrying around with you through your whole life, and it affects everything. It affects your relationships, it affects your work, it affects everything if you can't forgive. And Christ um, even said that if you cannot forgive, then you cannot be forgiven. And I don't know about you, but the gospel is this, that he died and he rose again and he paid the price that we might be forgiven of our sins. And God said that when we're forgiven, he remembers it no more, that it goes into the sea of forgetfulness. As far as the east is to the west, it's gone. And that we're not supposed to even drudge that any of that back up. And true forgiveness is this. You need to understand this. You say you forgive, but if you're still holding on to anger, resentment, pain, hurt from what this person did, then you really haven't forgiven. You haven't let it go. And even including yourself. If you are operating in guilt, oh man, I did this, I did that, you haven't forgiven yourself.
I want to interject really quick on what my bride said right there. You have to understand, you know, a lot of the books on psychology and psychiatry out there and the way the mind works and everything else, we go strictly by the Bible. But wisdom is given to man and to his offspring, and then it belongs to God. God said that the mysteries of God are given to man, then they belong to man. And you can't negate science because science proves God. And each and everything that we view, we see, we read, when you read it open to see what God says in it, then you begin to understand. See, humans are frequency. We are vibration.
Yes.
God created each and everything in creation with the spoken word. That is a vibration coming forth from a creator. And that vibration, just like a seed, drew everything from creation that it needed, and only what it needed to fulfill that vibrational spark into solidification in this three-dimensional reality. I say all that to say this: when you have unforgiveness inside of you, then you have a discordant vibration that will always bring you into a negativity, into a darkness. And the body keeps the score. So God says that he gives you life and death in the power of your tongue. Those who love it shall eat thereof. And it is Jesus said, whatsoever you say believing shall be, all things are possible to you. So you create that solidification. And when it comes to unforgiveness, you literally have that in what's called your biosphere that surrounds you continuously. As you experience love and as you release love and peace into a room, everybody can feel that. And when you bring chaos and anger, resentment, hate, rage, unforgiveness, everybody can feel that. Because we're all vibrational beings, we're all sensitive to the point that we choose to be to that spirit. I just want to interject that. So you're taking poison into your body.
And I want to say this: unforgiveness opens the door for you to have hate in your heart, for you to have malice towards somebody else, for you to act inappropriately towards someone, yelling, screaming, cussing them, calling them names. All these things are roots of unforgiveness. We both want to share a couple of scriptures with you today. I'm going to share Mark chapter 7, 14 through 23. Jesus was he had just started talking to the disciples, and he was talking to the Pharisees and the Sadducees, and he was talking to them about honoring their parents, and how they weren't keeping that law. So at verse 14, he said, when he had called all the multitude to himself, he said to them, "Hear me, everyone, and understand. There is nothing that enters a man from outside which can defile him, but the things which come out of him, those are the things that defile a man. If anyone has ears to hear, let him hear." When he had entered a house away from the crowd, his disciples asked him concerning the parable. So he said to them, "Are you thus without understanding also? Do you not perceive that whatever enters a man from outside cannot defile him, because it does not enter his heart, but his stomach, and is eliminated, thus purifying all foods?" And he said, "What comes out of a man that defiles a man? For from within, out of the heart of men, proceed evil thoughts, adulteries, fornications, murders, thefts, covetousness, wickedness, deceit, lewdness, an evil eye, blasphemy, pride, foolishness. All these evil things come from within and defile a man." So, what you put in food is not defiling you. What he's talking about is, Jesus said that we needed to watch our eye gates and our ear gates. If we are watching things that defile us, it's taken root in us. We're putting things in that can take root in us. Unforgiveness takes a root. If you can't let go of something, if you can't forgive, then it takes root and it causes bitterness in you and resentment. And these things can even lead to sickness. Most cancers are caused because people cannot forgive and let go of things that happen to them.
It's called a root of bitterness.
Yes.
And we've seen some mighty men and women of God fall from that and roll into cancer, and it took them out.
Yeah, before their time.
Yeah.
You want to share Proverbs?
I just want to say this, that we are I don't know if you all have heard me before, but there's an author that I truly love, and it's Dr. Carolyn Leaf. I'm sorry. She has authored many books. She is a Christian psychiatrist, And she has done in-depth studies in the brain and memories, and how those memories, how to clear them, how to detoxify your brain, and all these other works that are really truly great. And everything that she writes is scripturally based. So Dr. Lang had this to say, and I just want to do a real quick summary for you. Your brain is not just one single organ within your body. Your brain is divided into multiple different areas that each function in a certain aspect, in a certain relationship to the rest of them. So whenever, for instance, the human brain, I was reading an author that was talking to a computer programmer, and he said, this is the greatest computer that we have on the earth. It will process 1 billion bits of information per second. And the author said, he asked him a question. He said, okay, well, it'll process 1 billion bits of information per second, but how many at the same time? No, it was per minute. I'm sorry. How many at the same time? And he said, well, only one. So it can only process one. And the author asked the question, well, since the human eye takes in 100,000 bits of information per eye per second, then this computer that you designed is not that great. It's on a singular plane of data input. And then he began to talk about the ears. Each one of your ears hears at a different thing. Your nose smells at a different. Your tongue tastes. Your skin feels. And all these bits of information come in all at one time. Well, all of them are filtered through a thing called the reticular organ. The reticular organ only allows you to see what you've identified in the past you want to see. You literally cannot see what you don't believe. You can't see it. Your brain will not allow you to see it. And they did studies in areas in the jungle where they had like 100 different shades of green, but the tribesmen had never seen a blue. And they put the blue right in the middle of the screen with the green, and they could not identify it. And they didn't see any difference in the pattern with another green, but it was purely blue. So they could not identify it because the reticular organ would not allow them to see something outside their sphere. That's why when you watch movies, when you watch TV, you watch videos about people in offense, people that have been harmed, people that have been hurt, people that are emotionally distraught, you begin to self-identify with those things. And it's called sympathetic resonance. So your reticular organ is notified, okay, well, I want to see this. And then you begin to look in your own relationships to see it. And you will find it. For whatever you seek, you find. And whether the body and the brain actually look at it in a certain slant so it can see it, that depends upon your memory and whether you walk in a place of forgiveness. Each one of those forgiveness, Dr. Leaf, she described the cascading effect as it goes through each portion of the brain. Your memories are like palm trees, and the glue that you use is the emotion repetition of that memory. So if you look at that memory as your experience, those 100,000, all the rest of it come through your brain, it's cascaded down like a breeze flowing through these palm trees. And it will activate different palm trees based upon your focus. So if you're in a place of hurt, wounded, angry,
Mhm.
unforgiving, then those are the memories that are going to be spiked and going to be activated by even the least thing that people say. And that's why we react badly to some of the things that people have to say that are just, I mean, I've even gotten angry at people for saying things that had no consequence, but it sparked a time in my past when that memory, the next thing that would come, and then the next thing that would come, and then the blow up. So my brain automatically went to the blow up, and I became angry and I had to deal with that. But I want to read this verse to you. I gave you all that.
I want to say something real quick. It's about getting rid of the power that is in that memory to cause you to react in a negative way. See, if you hold on to something, it's a door open for the enemy to bring hatred, malice, cause you to react in a bad way towards someone and break what happens when you do these things causes your relationships to get ruined, causes you to lose jobs. It does all kinds of things. See, that's why God wants us to get rid of unforgiveness, because it keeps the door open to bring destruction to your life.
Now, I never want to give a problem without giving a solution. And I promise you at the end of this, we will give you a solution that you can use, a couple
Yes.
of them. But I want to read to you Proverbs 4:23. And my wife and I were talking about it this morning. It says, um, give me just a second. I wanted to see. Okay, I want to go to Proverbs 4:19 first. The way of the wicked is as darkness. They know not at what they stumble. My son, attend to my words, incline thine ear unto my sayings. Let them not depart from your eyes. Keep them in the middle of your heart, for they are life unto those that find them, and health to all their flesh. Keep your heart with all diligence, for out of it flow the issues of life. Now, that word issues, out of your heart, flow the issues.
Mm-hmm.
Tatsawa, and that's the phonetic transliteration of the original Hebrew, the Aramaic. But it says it's an outgoing border, an extremity, an end, a source, or an escape. It is a source of life, and it is an escape from death, but it is also a border that you can place.
Mm-hmm.
It's an exit, it's a boundary, it is deliverance actively, it's a going forth or an outgoing of a border that you have to put away from you a forward mouth, perverse lips put far from you. Now, when it comes to unforgiveness, Jesus said, if you can't forgive those who offend you, how can God forgive you? For you have offended God. So, as Christians, you walk, and we try to walk manifesting the fullness of God in our life
Yes.
through our love walk, through our peace, through our counseling, through, being
Being
I like to
Christ.
say we're the grease that lets all the wheels flow smoothly. That's the peace and love of God. It lets life flow smoothly for everybody involved. So when you're in a place of unforgiveness, you're not walking in a smooth place, but you're walking in a place where You want to exact revenge for issues that you perceive happen to you that possibly the other people have not even thought about. How do you take care of that? How do you take care of a root of bitterness? Well, the first way that I love most is worship. When you get into the depths of worship, Job said, in the depths of worship, you seek out mine iniquities, my failures, my shortcomings, my unforgiveness. You seek those things out in the depths of worship, because where the Spirit of God comes, there is liberty, and unforgiveness is bondage. So as you go into a place of worship, you go into the depths of worship. I'm not talking about praise. Praise has its place to get you to a plateau and to wear your body out. Then worship worships God. Praise is for what God has done. Worship is for who God is. That brings the cherubim with the full manifestation of God into your reality. It puts you on a synchronicity, a vibrational frequency with heaven and with God. Sister Ruth used to say, the vibration of heaven. You carry the glory in your voice, and you carry the glory with you. And all of those were acronyms, just sayings for the presence of God being in you and on you and flowing. So in worship, number one. Number two, it's de-emotionalizing your biosphere. And you can do that through prayer. You can do it through tapping. You can do it through tuning forks. You can do it through past prayer for all your generational. You can do it every single modality that humanity has made. You can remove it. Acupuncture, acupressure, each and every one of those, when you focus on them and believe in them, they will release that. It's just an outward symbol for what you choose to do inwardly. And it's all Jesus when it comes to everything being forgiven, everything gone, for me. So you can do those different ways. And Dr. Leaf, she goes into a detox where you get with God, and each and every day you analyze the memory, and you analyze it from an adult perspective instead of a child perspective. Then once you analyze it, you find the good, you find the purpose, you find what their agenda was. And then you play that out, and you go through that every day, and you deal internally to remove it from you, because the other person doesn't have it. Whoever did the thing to you, they don't have that thing. That thing is totally inside of you, and it lives only in your mind and your emotions. And removing the emotion from it allows you to reach that place of forgiveness.
Yes. The name of that book is called Switch on Your Brain by Dr. Carolyn Leaf. I want to say this to any parents watching. It's okay to have a conversation with your child when they bring something from the past that you did that hurt them, and allowing them to share it with you. And then, though, you guys need to come to a place of forgiveness and letting it go.
Forgiveness comes in this: it's asking without
Without excuse.
excuse.
I was
It's
going to get to that.
yeah. Okay. Sorry, baby.
So,
I
and
jump ahead.
I'm gonna give you an example, uh, because I've lived this. My mother and father, um, they separated, and they gave me, my brother and sister, over to my dad's mom and stepdad, but he was the only grandfather I knew, and they raised us. Well, um, a lot of things happened in my childhood, and rightfully so. I had anger and all these things in me because of the hurt of being rejected by my parents. Because if you're left, you're abandoned, you're going to get rejection, and you're going to have abandonment issues and all these things. And as I've been walking with the Lord, about when my daughter, my middle child, was 16, there had been a family reunion. I went to it, and God had been talking to me before I went to the family reunion that um, I needed to make peace with my dad. And I was trying to make peace with my father. And then he brought my mother to me, and I was like, whoa, I can only do one of them at a time. So I chose to deal with my mom. And I called her up and I asked her if she would come for the visit. She said yes. So she came. And probably the third day she was there, we were up in my bedroom, and we were talking, and I started to cry. And I just started sharing, you left me. I felt like had done something wrong, thought it was my fault. A lot of bad things happened to me. And my mother, she didn't make any excuses. She didn't say, well, I did that because of this, or it's your daddy's fault, or any of those things. What she did was she put her arms around me. She held me. She let me cry. She cried. She told me how sorry she was. And that took the sting out. It was also my decision at that point to forgive her. And I did. I told her I forgave her. And it was miraculous. That's how I knew that when you truly have forgiveness, is when there's no more sting to the memories. I've been in a relationship with my mom now for 17 years. I don't think about those things when I talk to her or get around her. If somebody brings it up or something comes up, a memory or whatever, there's nothing there. I don't have sorrow, I don't have pain, anger, or anything. It's gone. So that's what I meant by, if you can have those moments with your children and you can discuss without fighting, discuss it, and you not make up any excuses, but just hold them, love on them, and say, I'm sorry. I am sorry this happened to you. I'm sorry I did that. But they have to make a decision to forgive you. And then you guys have to go on. And forgiveness is letting go of it, not letting any power in those things anymore. That's true forgiveness. That's what the gospel is. Jesus came and he died so that we could be forgiven of our sins and that God would remember them no more, not even hold us accountable. The blood covers our sins. If he forgives us, then who are we to hold on to anybody's stuff? Now, I'll say this right here. You can forgive and not have a relationship with someone. if they won't forgive you, or if somebody is still walking in stuff and they do things to you every time you get around them. They're mean to you, they do things. Um, you can forgive, but you don't have to be in relationship and take abuse or anything like that. So I'm not saying forgiveness, you you got to stay in a cycle with somebody. You forgive for yourself so that it doesn't hold any power over you anymore. That the enemy doesn't have any root in you to cause any harm to you or to others or to your life in any way.
You know, one of the people that I trained early through, he had a saying that was really appropriate for unforgiveness. He said, "Every emotion that you don't discharge, and your body, I have a galvanometer that I can take over my body. I can run all the acupressure points in my body. I'm an electrician. And I can actually check the highest resistance level of the meridian and of the acupressure points on the human body. And I find that they're at a higher level of charge. Well, I can go through those places and simply tapping on it to bring my mind aware of where that emotion is caught, and releasing that allows me to check it later, and the resistance is down. It's less than what it was. So there is a release, an emotional, electrical charge frequency release when I actually do that. He said this. He said, emotions, unforgiveness, rage, anger, all those things, if you keep them buried down, they only come back with a bigger pair of shoes because they build. Because you remember those palm trees I was telling you about? Well, the glue that holds them together is protein. The protein is generated by the mind as you reinforce that memory, as you play that memory, as you re-speak that memory. Now remember Proverbs 4:23. The issues of life flow, and it through your mouth you set your boundary or you set your deliverance. So what you say does manifest. Jesus said, "Whatsoever you say, believing, shall be." It doesn't matter what's going on inside. You deal with that. You get the emotion. You get rid of that root of bitterness. You accept that forgiveness. You go through the detox. You do whatever it takes. You put on worship. You get down. You scream at the top of your lungs. Let all that mess go to God. We've done it. And scared some people in the service, but it was a root of bitterness going out, and people actually saw it leave. Because love, just like hate, you can see it when it passes one to another.
Yeah.
And I just want to say, find what works best for you. But whatever you do, don't allow this to set a limit of your relationship. Don't allow this. As you repeat over and over what somebody has done to you, you force that vacuum to open to give you that in your future.
Mm-hmm.
You speak through your imagination. Einstein even said, it is telling the future of what's to come. As you play it through your imagination, you speak it as it goes forth. God hears it. You know, God's sitting right there on your shoulder. I've walked up to people before and said, "How's your day?" "Oh, it's terrible. My back is killing me. This is going on, that's going on, and all this and that." And I said, "Wow, You know, if I were God sitting on your shoulder saying, "What is it, my beloved, you would want your day to be?" and you gave me all that, I would say, "Wow, really? You want that? Okay, I love you. Here it is." You reinforce that solidification of that focused reality being what your reticular organ looks to find. And whatever you look to find, you're going to find.
Yeah. Um, we're always learning. God's always teaching us. He chastises us because he loves us. And I'm saying he disciplines us. So just sitting here right now thinking about it and how the power of reliving, sharing. There's one thing about, I guess, telling a testimony, and then there could be another thing about speaking about things that happened in your past. And my example is this. Recently, I was having a conversation with my daughter. She was upset, and she has unforgiveness issues towards me and her father, and she hasn't released these things. And when you're so close to somebody, sometimes you can't see the forest for the trees in front of you. And I was caught up in the emotion. I shared a story with her about something that happened in my childhood, and how when I was age 12, I stood up to my abuser. And I shared the story, and it triggered a memory in her, and we got in this huge argument. Right now we're not even talking. So I'm seeing that you got to be careful about sharing, about telling your story again, because there is power sometimes. If somebody isn't in that place, you can trigger them, because what is it, PTSD, where it's the faucet drips, the
it's,
shoe drops.
yeah, and that's also part of L. Ron Hubbard's book on Clear. He used the example that when a person has experienced something, then there are triggers that lead up to that climactic end of the event that happened. You know, the if the water was dripping and the radio was playing a certain song, and your spouse said this, and then the tornado threw a tree through the wall, then you would begin to develop anxiety when you heard the faucet dripping. It wouldn't be heightened, but then if all of a sudden the chair fell, then it would be heightened further. And then you go to the spouse saying something, and then you go into a PTSD episode where your reactive brain, your subconscious brain, that is only there to keep you alive and safe, it comes in and it closes out, and you have tunnel vision, and all you can really experience is that past. And it's time to fight or flight. And that's that emotional adrenaline dump that
Yeah.
comes. Um,
And I want to say that if you have unforgiveness and you